right, well, we are joined now by Presidency spokesperson, Mr. Vincent Magwenya. Mr. Magwenya, good evening to you. Thank you so much for joining us on Newsfeed PM. So obviously, I think the big question for many South Africans is, what was the president's thinking that led up to this point? We know that one of the answers you're going to talk about is the president's prerogative, of course, to move things around in the executive. Understandable. But the motivation behind this particular move to fire Dr. Nkabane.
Good evening and good evening to your viewers. I think the issues are well known and the issues have been ventilated in public for quite some time now. So we don't need to rehash. Suffice to say the president saw it fit to remove Minister Nkabane in the interest of stability in the sector, in the interest of stability in the department and the work of the department in fulfilling its mandate. And so the president duly exercised his prerogative in that regard.
Yeah, I think the big question is what do you call it, the straw that broke the camel's back, right? Was it on Friday the minister failing to account before a portfolio committee? A lot of the criticism that we've heard this evening is that the president could have acted against her a lot earlier.
Well, people can opine on when the president can exercise his prerogative and when can the president exercise his decisions. But I think a couple of factors need to be considered here, that when you have such incidents happen, they add onto an already heavily loaded in tray of the president in terms of the volume of work. It does not hold then he has to then abandon everything else and focus on one issue. That's the first thing. The second thing, even in the exercise of his prerogative, the president always seeks to act with a degree of fairness. He always seeks to act in line with the Constitution. And in this case, he gave the minister an opportunity to present a report to him and address the issues of concern that arose from one of the sessions the minister attended, or the former minister in this case, held with the portfolio committee in Parliament. And so those issues have been there for some time. The president requested a report, and he has been concerned by the relationship between the minister and Parliament. And finally, having satisfied himself, going through the report from the minister, having, kind of gone through all the issues that were at play, so to speak, he finally then decided to remove the minister.
And what about the entry of now Deputy Minister Nobuhle Dube-Ncube? I ask that because in the removal and this, I suppose, debacle of Nkabane that we've seen over the past few months, has been the issue of the list of those appointed to the SETA boards and the former KZN Premier's name coming up seemingly in those lists. So talk to me about the confidence that the president then has in putting her as Deputy Minister.
Well, Dr. Nobuhle Dube-Ncube could not be held responsible for being proposed and approached and suggested to be appointed in the SETA board. The fact that she is a member of the ANC does not necessarily disqualify her in terms of her leadership experience and the prerequisite qualifications that are required. She has a long government leadership experience, having served in various provincial executive portfolios, having been the Premier of KwaZulu-Natal. And so the president does have a great deal of confidence in her ability to discharge her duties in support of the minister and in support of the department's work in fulfilling its mandate.
There was the expectation last week, Sunday, that if there was going to be an announcement made about Dr. Nkabane, that it could have happened when the president addressed the country about the issue of the allegations made by Lieutenant General Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi. But that day, the focus being on then outgoing police minister, in fact, still police minister, Senzo Mchunu, who's now on special leave. The comparison is made, though, Mr. Magwenya, that the allegations faced by Minister Mchunu, however, speak of syndicates involved in the upper echelons of the SAPS, allegations of syndicates in, in Parliament, in the judiciary. I mean, massive problems that have been cited by Lieutenant General Nkabane, and yet the police minister put on special leave while a more decisive approach is taken with Nkabane to say, no, you're simply removed. So how do we weigh, while you sit in the president's office, how you see him weigh what deserves what kind of action with his ministers?
Well, in your question, you've correctly prefaced your question by saying allegations. And so what do we have? We have allegations against Minister Senzo Mchunu. Those allegations, in terms of our constitution, have to be tested, and they have to be tested through a competent authority that will look at the balance of all the evidence that will be presented to it. More importantly, Minister Mchunu will then have an opportunity to respond to those allegations, and he will be asked questions with respect to the manner in which he discharged his role, and he will be asked questions on those allegations. That's what our constitution provides for. It does not provide for action based on just merely accusations, notwithstanding the fact that those allegations came from a very senior member of the South African Police Service in the form of Lieutenant General Nkabane. They are nonetheless still have to be tested. General Nkabane himself needs to be provided an opportunity to expand on those allegations and provide more evidence. The president could not simply rely on what was delivered or presented to the media as the only gospel truth for him to act. And so the commission is going to provide all parties that are party to these issues, that are implicated, that are accused, an opportunity to respond to allegations about them, as well as an opportunity to General Nkabane to expand on those allegations and provide evidence or proof, so to speak. And so this is what our constitution provides for. I think there's an error here that we are committing with respect to the conflation of these issues. These issues are not similar. And so the comparisons are a little bit misplaced, with all due respect, in our view. The issue concerning former Minister Nkabane is completely different. It's the issue that relates to her relationship with Parliament. It's an issue of what has been witnessed with respect to her engagement with Parliament, which has not been constructive, which has not been in line with the expected decorum, with the expected manner in which members of the National Executive must interact with Parliament. And so let's not compare issues that are fundamentally quite different, both in substance as well as in form.
Okay, so let me get back on track then, and then go back to this issue of the Department of Higher Education. Buti Manamela is now in as the Minister of Higher Education, and we've got Dr. Nobuhle Ngube as a deputy. Is Higher Deputy Minister Mimi Gondwe still in place?
Yes. So there's no change in that regard. The only change impacts obviously the former minister in the form of Dr. Nkabane.
Yeah.
And Dr. Nobuhle Ngube then replaces Minister Manamela, since Minister Manamela has now been appointed into that ministerial role.
There was the opportunity here, though, to cut down on what is considered a bloated cabinet. There was the opportunity to move Buti Manamela up to the position of minister and leave Gondwe there to be the only deputy minister and cut down on how much we're spending.
No, there was no such opportunity. As you know, the formulation of cabinet reflects the partnership in the form of the government of national unity. And so that opportunity did not exist. I appreciate you trying to squeeze it in, but there was never such an opportunity because the manner, or rather the constitution of the national executive, or the constituting rather of the national executive, is reflective of a government of national unity with 10 or so parties that decided after the elections to come together and work together in driving the country forward and from a practical point of view in leading the government.
Yeah, I'm going to jump at the opportunity that you've given me then to talk about agreements in the government of national unity. Is there a time when there's a moment where the president is seemingly giving in to pressure or ultimatums by GNU members like the government of, like the Democratic Alliance? And I ask that because one of the things that we heard from Karabo this evening is that they're not necessarily happy that Nkabane is out. This is not going to be Whitfield or Nkabane. They still want to see Thembi Simelane no longer in that cabinet. If the pressure's put on the president, could we see Simelane out as well?
No, we've said this before, and we've said it quite respectfully, that the president does not respond to ultimatums. And so, unfortunately, those ultimatums and deadlines are misplaced. And we've also said, these issues are very different. You cannot, from a position of principle, say just because former Deputy Minister Whitfield directly defied the president and there was consequence as a result of that action, and then therefore start nitpicking members of cabinet that you feel must be fired. We've also clarified numerous times that the matter concerning Minister Simelane is a matter that predates her appointment into the national executive, number one. Number two, it's a matter that was investigated by the authority that she was under at the time, and that authority sanctioned her, and she duly complied with that sanction. Minister Nkabane, since being appointed the minister, has not violated her oath of office or has not done anything, as far as the president knows, that will qualify and necessitate her dismissal or her removal from cabinet. This is an old issue, one that if there was wrongdoing that's being investigated will have to be left to law enforcement to deal with it.
Yeah.
And up until such time law enforcement surfaces with new evidence, then the president will have to look at that and act accordingly. But as things stand, the DA is arguing over an old matter that predates Minister Nkabane's appointment into the national executive.
Yeah. Mr. Vincent Magwenya, we're going to leave it there, and thank you so much for your time. We certainly do appreciate it. Of course, he is spokesperson there for the presidency, Mr. Vincent Magwenya.